All right, everyone. It's 7:30 according to the clock on the wall, so let's go ahead and get started here. I was glad to see our president has arrived. Denny, let me unmute you. I'm winging this a little bit tonight because our usual spokesman for the meeting, Dave Schaaf, our vice president, actually had to work today and tomorrow up in Longmont, I think. So he may be running a little bit late. I will introduce our presenter in a minute, but we have a very special club event coming up. Hold on. Joe seems to be highlighted here, and there we go. So the one thing I would ask during the presentation is that I will be muting everyone, same as always. If you'd hold your questions to the end, I'm pretty sure Dennis would be happy to take some questions afterwards. But in the meantime, Denny, would you like to give us an update on club news?
Everyone, yeah, club news. We're moving right along. Anyway, we are planning, we believe, on the 16th of May, and there'll be more coming very shortly on that, of having something at the Railroad Museum, which would be a combination dinner and steam up. So we don't have all the details hammered, but we're very, very close, and we are in agreement with them to do it. So it should be an exciting event, and number 20 should be there, and 346. So anyway, keep tuned. We'll have some more information shortly. Otherwise, membership, I don't think we've talked about it, but membership this year is pretty good. We're down a little bit, which we'd all expect with the way everything is, but generally going good. And certainly the meetings we've been doing. I have a personal thing is that we've been looking for a little more club history. And I don't know if anybody out there's got any rail reports from the 40s, but I'd certainly like to see if we could run and ask the question if anybody might have any of those older rail reports. Nathan's done a superior job in getting a whole bunch of them in. And if you've never looked at that group and what I want to say, the archives of the rail reports, it's really some pretty interesting stuff. One of my favorites was a $3 trip to Winter Park in the 60s for a prime rib dinner. So anyway, I don't really have much else. Dennis Livesey is our presenter tonight, which looks pretty interesting, but I don't have all the background. Do you, Nathan? I'm just going to have to ask that. Can you make a bit of an introduction? Because
I hate to say it, I do not. Dennis, would you like to introduce yourself? Because you're going to do a far better job at it than I'm going to do.
Indeed. Welcome. Thank you for doing this for the club.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Good evening.
I see my good friend Joe McMillan's in the audience. I can't wait to present to him. Hopefully he doesn't throw too many tomatoes at me.
Good news is tomatoes don't translate too well over the internet, so you're probably safe.
You're probably safe. So tell us a bit about yourself and the program.
Well, just basically, I'm a rail fan just like anyone else. Started as a kid. I didn't really start getting serious about the photography until much later, unlike so many of you guys who started when you were 12 or less. And so I'm sort of a late bloomer. Anyway, I grew up in Mamaroneck and Rye, New York. I saw my first train, the Mamaroneck Railroad Station, when I was 2. Dad thrust a Lucius Beebe highball book into my hands when I was 5. I got a Lionel train when I was 6, and the die was cast. So a whole bunch of other things happened. I went to NYU film school, graduated from that. I started a 32-year career in the motion picture industry as a camera assistant and camera operator. I left that eventually, and I've now been 10 years at B&H Photo, B&H Photo Audio and Pro, never mind, B&H Photo. I've been there for 10 years as a sales agent. I work electronically. I've never met a customer in the flesh. And I help them, with their camera buying decisions. I really like it in that it keeps my hand in with the cameras and stuff, and gives me the free time on the weekend that movies did not really give me to go off and do my stuff. So essentially, that's it, gentlemen. I'll go into just a tad more detail about that during the show.
Okay, Dennis, you should be host now, so you should be able to take over presenting.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I thought there was a meeting.
You get the throttle.
Okay.
Without Dave here, we're at a loss of things to talk about.
Well, I can understand Dave. Dave does the sound side of the movies and video. I had to work with many superb sound and audio people such as Dave. And so I understand where he's at, and God bless him. All right. Without further ado, I'll just. All righty. Keeping it light and bright, mostly. For 51 years of railroad photography, from 1970 to 2021. Here we see Canadian National 3254, the steam locomotive of which I have more photographs of than any other. It's just untold thousands of them. Here's one nice one. Here's a little, thing of me rail fanning through the years. The upper right there, that's little old me doing my best Stan Laurel interpretation. I love Stan Laurel. And here I am with what was Edaville number 3 in Edaville in South Carver. Well, that was about 1960, 61. And here I am in the middle here, and this was a shot taken by my wife Mel in about 1995. And again, I'm at Edaville, and again, I'm with number 3. She's changed a little bit. It's not red. And now over here, the old grizzled veteran, not much different than what you're looking at right now. I'm with number 3 again. But now you don't see her so much, but this is at the WWNF in Alna, Maine, back in the state that she was made. She was made just 50 miles from this spot. And I find it interesting how I've changed through the years, and number 3 really hasn't. In fact, she looks even better. So, yes, I was the rail fan. Like I was mentioning, I was really more of an armchair photographer, armchair rail fan. Yes, I had lots of books. I had Trains Magazine subscription. I knew all the guys like Steinheimer and Hastings and Shaughnessy, these guys, and David P. Morgan, and all this great stuff. And Beebe and Clegg, inspiring. I love their stuff, but it was always kind of a background hobby because Dad, Herbert, was the shutterbug in our family, and he got me introduced with cameras. He produced something like 30 albums, of which comprised his entire life from 1913 to 1980. That started the bug in me, along with Life magazine and National Geographic. And my mother, Jane, who loved the theater, took me to Broadway plays and took me to see magnificent films like Lawrence of Arabia. this all started getting me going with that. The photography and cinematography and the power of photographs and the power of movies to convey emotions. And then 1964, as you gentlemen will remember, the Beatles hit. And oh my gosh, that started this incredible interest in music. So I wound up playing in rock bands. I wound up being in high school plays. I ran, was a DJ in my college. All of this stuff sent me off to NYU Film School. But I didn't really take pictures of trains. It just was, I didn't have time. I was a little busy. One of the reasons of getting that guitar was to meet girls. I'm sure you understand that. So a little sidetrack, after 2009, after I'd left the movie business, I had incidentally taken a picture of a Steamtown train, and then I sent the photographs to the engineer. Well, that led to my meeting Aaron Stout, and with that, I started a relationship with him. I got a cab ride in the 3254 in November of 2009 that went to a Trains Magazine article. And then Aaron turned to me and said, "So Dennis, why don't you think about volunteering?" And I thought, what are you, nuts? That's kind of crazy. It'll take away time from shooting trains. Becoming a volunteer railroader at Steamtown and becoming a trainman, a conductor, a yard conductor, and well, as you can see here, a student fireman on a genuine Baldwin locomotive was transformational with my photography, because now I understood not only why the railroaders were doing what they were doing, I understood how it felt. I understood far greater than ever before the danger that's involved. But this is something I'm sure that Joe can speak to. The amazing thing is, being a railroader, there's a camaraderie. You're a part of something that's bigger than yourself. It takes a whole bunch of people to move this silly little train, 13 miles, and to do it successfully, to make hundreds of people happy, and to do it, without breaking anything. So this really infused my ability to look at the scene like I couldn't do before. So anyway, I got my first real camera, a 35 millimeter film camera in 1970 as a graduation present. And I had been taking pictures since 1957. So I was pretty adept with the camera. I knew what it was like, so I could do this like in college. This lady I saw while I was going to NYU, I just couldn't, I asked her if I could take this picture of her, and she said yes. She nodded, actually, and I took it. And it's one of my favorites, because even though this is a person who's, well, obviously having a little tough time, she still retained her incredible amount of dignity. I love New York. I have ever since I came here when I was 5. And this is a little love poem to the place. I like this one because it cut off the top of the World Trade Center towers. And by doing so, you really get an idea of the incredible size of these things. They were utterly enormous. All the more the tragedy. And of course, I could take pretty things like this, and the parents and the girlfriend and the friends would say, "Ooh, Dennis, you know how to take a picture." Well, sure. But all of that reading of Trains Magazine, all those BB books, all of that stuff, and knowing, well, Steinheimer's good. Shaughnessy is amazing. I want to do good stuff. Okay, so I got my brand new camera, June 1970. I walk across the street from my home in Rye, New York, to the Rye station, and I aim my camera at the very first train I see. And what do? Oh, sorry, that's Eve. See, I can take pictures of people too. Ah, good old Eve. My wife Mel is now noticing this for the first time. Busted. Anyway, this is the first shot I ever shot as a rail fan. Well, we all have humble beginnings. I suppose it's pretty cool. You know, it's, you know, Penn Central, and then there's a old MU over on the side. Anyway, to get a little closer to you guys home, 1974, I was on my way to Hollywood to make it in the movie business. I convinced my friends to stop over in Durango, and I went into the Durango Roundhouse using this very camera filled with Ektachrome film. You guys remember how we used to be able to go around Durango. And this was like one of the first, I would say, first rail pictures I ever took that meant anything, that looked any good. It was a reasonable start. Okay, we're going to jump up to 1993. And this was pretty much the beginning of my first railway project. I couldn't help myself. I was drawn to the GG1s. The GG1s were doing their last stand, running between New Jersey Transit service, commuter service in the morning, in the evening, day after day, after day, between New York City Penn Station and South Amboy, New Jersey, where there's you probably have heard about the famous changeover from electric to steam, you know, traditionally the magnificent Pennsylvania Railroad K4S Pacifics. And then after 1957, interesting of Baldwin, Pennsylvania Railroad, Baldwin Sharks. And by this time, you know, former Southern Railway E8s and other companies. So E8s, GG1s, E8s, pretty good stuff. So anyway, what we're looking at, we see the 4884. It just brought this train in, and it had been at the other end. It's now cut off. It's on the runaround, and is going to go into rather elaborate flyovers and wind up in a yard that was directly behind the photographer, me. It's a very much slice of life kind of photo. There's so many things that are going on. You know, you see the passengers getting on, the conductors getting ready. Now you might be interested in the guy over there in the really awful red pants. Well, he was one of, not one, but two railway crossing guards. And what he would have to do, he'd get us, there was a little house there you can see. And then I believe that's a signal indicator in front of the gates. And then when he knew that a train was coming, he would have to come out and manually crank the gates down and crank them back up when it was safe. And there was another guy at the other end, because there was another street at the other end of the train doing the exact same thing. I mean, it's 1983, and you know, people like to joke that the New Jersey Transit was running the world's finest train museum. So, and of course, we have the guy in the blue suit looking at what the heck is that guy with the camera doing? And I look at him, what the heck are you thinking with that blue suit? Dutch doors. Remember those, boys? Dutch doors. Well, you weren't supposed to do this any more than you were supposed to do it 50 years ago. And, you know, of course, it's now impossible with our hermetically sealed passenger consists. But here we are. I call this the Bergen Curve. We're in Bergen Hill, New Jersey, North Bergen, New Jersey. And this is a curve where the Northeast corridor goes from its northeast and hangs a right, and it's going to go straight into the North River tunnels. The Hudson River in the New York Harbor area is referred to by old-time mariners as the North River. Don't ask. Anyway, I love this location. I don't know, I was drawn to it. And I went there many times. And here she is. I love how we've got some super elevation, really leaning into it. She's slowing down from 80 mile per hour max to this. To, I don't know, about 50. Yeah, oh man. This is about 1,000 feet further along than the previous photograph. and she's just doing a rocket shot into the tunnels. The 4883, for some reason, had this yellow stripe. It was the only one it did. All the other ones were basic black dip. And I like how the engineer did it right. He's got a short coat on, and he's got a classic Northeast railroader hat on with the white top with the blue band. And yes, here we are, Brereton Bay. This bridge is currently being replaced, but then this is just south of Perth Amboy, and it's going on to about another mile and a half or so to South Amboy, where the GG1 will cut off. Noted rail fan and editor Jim Boyd was the wag who termed this particular place because it was right next. The vantage point here was of a sewer pipe, and he called it Bacteria Beach. Here we see an unknown GG1 going off into the sunset. Well, yeah, cab ride, woohoo! I don't have a lot of cab rides, but this one and another one I had that week at night, well, since I didn't have so many, this one really stood out. And again, we're just coming out of the Bergen Curve, and just to the right is the North River Tunnel. Here's something a little closer to home, I suppose, because we've got 3-foot gauge East Broad Top. This is about 1982. I think this is my first visit. That's number 12. Their first, Mikado, their first modern locomotive, which started them to get another 5, each increasing in size just a bit. Number 12 is really cute. She's my particular favorite because she's small and so forth. She was used a lot in the tourist era, and right at the moment she's pretty worn out. And the current administration there has no particular plans of resurrecting her at the moment. I love the stone house in the background, which predated the railroad, which was built in 1872, 73. I believe this house was 1850s or so, and it was a farmhouse. It's great. It's just iconic, this wonderful building. Their current plans to, again, make it the master mechanics office as well as a crew office. I think that's fantastic. Here's the fireman of number 12. At the time, I was kind of wondering, why the heck am I taking this picture? It's backlit. You can't see the whole locomotive. You can't see his face. What the hell? I'll take a picture anyway. Glad I did. This is another what's it? Why did I take this? I mean, here we have a bunch of railfan backside. Well, I don't know. This really sort of captured the moment, I think, where we'd all just spectaculars at the EBT. And that's number 15, which was a particular favorite in the, and she was the last steamer who actually did run at the East Broad Top. Number 14, exploding out of the roundhouse that day. For you photographers out there, you might be interested in how I did this. This one I used a shot on film, Fuji. I'm not sure, Provia, probably. Maybe Sensia, I don't remember. Anyway, I used by this time I was using Canon cameras. And this one was a 15 millimeter semi-fisheye f2.8. And, it was pretty distorted. But through the magic of digital processing and with Lightroom, there's a little button and you can hit that and it whoop, unsqueezes it. So I really like what it did, just made this boom kind of effect. just this little locomotive exploding out of a roundhouse. Here you see these, East Broadtop, consists of their hopper cars. This has been the life of increasingly with the EVT since April 1956 when it shut down. This is Mount Union, Pennsylvania, the place for its interchange with the Pennsylvania Railroad. The track that is open is the quote-unquote main line. These are yard tracks. Roger Siebert became the president of the EBT shortly after 1900, and he instituted a program of modernization. He brought concrete coaling towers, concrete bridges, steel bridges, more powerful locomotives, and he particularly instituted making all of the freight cars steel. With all of this modernization, it literally became the most modern narrow gauge railroad in the United States. And that includes our beloved Denver and Rio Grande, which had wooden cars to the very end. And they made something like 150 of these cars, or maybe it was 300. I always get them mixed up. When it comes to details, gentlemen, I'm a great admirer of Lucius Beebe. I follow him religiously in that I forget the details, just sort of bear with me. Hopping over to Steamtown, here is 3254 near Elmhurst, Pennsylvania, just doing a simple excursion from Scranton to Moscow, Pennsylvania, where she'll run around the train and bring her back. It's about a 2-hour trip. Anyway, she was built in 1917, Montreal locomotive, and she had a almost unknown history until she was sold from America to an American who put her in, who planned to do something with her, but wound up just keeping her at his motel. Then she was sold to the Gettysburg Railroad, where she was found to be too big for their needs. So Steamtown swapped a G-class Pacific, the ill-fated Pacific that had the crown sheet failure. And anyway, the 3254 did its job up until 2012. The 54 wasn't the most magnificent locomotive in its performance. There were issues that I've heard various reasons and so forth. I know she was a bit hard, of a challenge to fire. You really had to be right on top of it. Otherwise she'd turn around and bite you. But she did her job, and she was big, and I loved her. She was just a fabulous machine. Here we see erstwhile men. That is Dick Roden on the left, and it's Don Young on the right, cleaning the fire. This is the part about railroading that really sticks to you. Like all of our endeavors. Yes, we come for the trains, but like here in your club, we stay for the people. It's the people that keep us. On the left, we've got Don Young, who used to work at Bethlehem Steel. In the middle is the engineer of the day, Tom Shore, who's unfortunately no longer with us. And over on the right is Bruce Mowbray, who is the chief mechanical officer at Steamtown. And he spearheaded the revival of Baldwin 06026. Great job he did for that. And also he's heading the restoration of Boston and Maine Lima Pacific 3713. You know how steam things are. A lot of the stuff has been done, and a lot of it has to be the reassembly. And here we are. This is in Moscow, and backdrop of the 3254. This is again Steamtown. That's Baldwin Locomotive Works 26, which was one of 3 shop switchers that Baldwin kept around Eddystone. It was built in 1929, and I think she was around till World War II. Then she went to a couple of places and eventually wound up back at Steamtown by 1995. She went down for a 14-year overhaul. Yeah, a little long, but it came back in 2016. This is December of 2016, and I was able to score a ride. And you could see it snowed. This is one of the scenic highlights of the ride. We're in the Naog Gorge, just sitting there. Now, this is the Naog Tunnel I'm standing in, and I find this fascinating because this 755-foot bore was built in 1855. I mean, that's pre-Civil War, and it's still in use, daily use by the Delaware-Lackawanna freight trains. I'd never seen this before, but I was told that this was going to happen. And what it is the 26 on the right did have a full day of excursion service, but had to come in for its 30-day overhaul, boiler cleaning. And the way the guys there do it is that they open up the snifter valves and just let all that steam go out. The cacophony is unbelievable. I had earplugs in and ear protection on. I couldn't hear myself think. It was magnificent. Oh, whoa. Here we are in December 2019, getting ready for the Santa Claus train in Scranton. 26 is on the left. I know, you see a slope back tender, and they're obviously just steel coaches. But I like to fantasize a little bit that this is, it's bringing cars to attach to some great limited in the 1930s. Now, here I'll make a mention. When I first joined a well-known railfan photos website, one of the rules, the stipulations, no backlight. And I thought, wait a minute. I've just spent decades in the movie business where we love backlight. We love the drama. We love the tension. We love the contrast that backlighting can give. When you're trying to convey emotion, you use light. In a photograph, you use light. You use contrast. You use exposure to create the emotion that you're trying to convey. And the thing is one of the things is the photographer and a cinematographer, one of your most important jobs is controlling contrast. Now, when I first walked into my dorm room at NYU, and my roommate Rob, my new roommates, said, yes, it's very important to control contrast. And when he said that, I wouldn't know what contrast was if UPS had delivered it to me. I just had no idea. But now I've grown to understand that the concept of understanding contrast, the interplay between dark and light. For me, what it is that light, that fighting between black and white, light and dark, that edge, the edge of that contrast, right where those things meet, that particularly excites these things. I like to say that it makes my eyes dance when I have good contrast. It excites me, it excites my brain. And there was better illustration. Conrad Hall, a cinematographer who won the Academy Award 3 times, one for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and the last one for Road to Perdition. He spoke of one thing of my old friend Rob, NYU grad. He worked for Conrad, and he stated that Connie told him once, Think of this. Whenever you look at a photograph that you find breathtaking, you go, wow, that's incredible to look at. It's beautiful. It's so wonderful. I love it. And he said, look at that picture. Just look at it. And you think of this. You'll see that it's an interaction of dark against light and light against dark. That is contrast. That is the stuff that conveys emotion. That is one of the things I strive for. More narrow gauge steam. Here we are up in Maine, Alna, Maine. That's good old Monson number 3. And in the front there on the left is Joe Fox, a regular at the WWNF. And then we've got Hansel and Bill, who are regularly with the Maine Narrow Gauge Railroad down in Portland, where number 3 normally lives. One of the things that really encourages me about this is not a gray hair visible. Isn't it great? I mean, I love having, young blood coming into this, because, without these young men, without these young women, we need them. That's Bill Baskerville, absolutely stoic brakeman doing his job. I, of course, wanted to use a longer shutter speed to convey the emotion. Otherwise, it's just kind of, sharp and you could be standing still. No, I didn't want that. So this is one of those things where it took a risk, and it depended upon Bill not moving. Well, he was perfect. The stoic Bill didn't move an inch. So I was able to shoot. I did, 30, 40 exposures. And thank God for digital, because, I would have gone through 2 or 3 rolls of film, and fumbling on the moving platform to throw that stupid thing in there. So I got this. I like how the rails go off to this, and it's conveying, it really just sort of imparts how it's people that makes trains work. In the back, you see some stumps. And one of the amazing things about the WWF is whenever they want to do something, they just do it. They said, well, we're going to build a new turntable, all out of timbers. Well, where are we going to get the lumber? Well, we'll just cut it off on our own property. Oh, yeah, well, where are we going to get it cut? Well, Joe, he owns a lumber mill down in Massachusetts. He'll cut it. Amazing. This one I didn't process until a couple of weeks ago, and I just was taken by how nice it worked. One of the cool things about it is that locomotive and one of those 2 cars are original to this line. They used to run in this space up until 1933. The buildings on the right are new and the trackage is new, but locomotive and one of those cars is all original. And I just want you to know, this is not a pose shot. This is just how the boys are hanging out. I love the fact that the engineer, his name is, we call him Bullet Bob. You history buffs certainly will recall during the 1900s how railroads, after they finally established themselves and got these routes, and they wanted to encourage people to ride their trains. So what do? They sent photographers out there to extol the beauties of their various lines. Well, granted, here in the East, we don't have the spectacular Rockies, but we do have some scenery. Here we are in Pennsylvania, in the Lehigh River Gorge. This was originally penetrated by 2 railway lines. The one on the left, it was the Central Railroad of New Jersey, and the one on the right was the Lehigh Valley. Now it's changed over into the one on the left is the Reading Northern, the one on the right is Northwest Southern. In the distance is the Reading Northern Baldwin Pacific 425. Easily the loudest locomotive I have ever heard. Yeah, oh, man. Yes, my dear friend Orrin Hellbach, a fine photographer in his own right, and a fabulous writer, an incredible chronicler of steam, is an amazing tour guide. He found this piece of road. It's about a mile long, flat, macadam, real close to the track, and not a single car. Yes. So we were able to pace her. She's not moving too quick. She's doing, I don't know, track speed, maybe 25. And I'm shooting underneath Orrin's nose with a 47 millimeter full frame camera. And I'm doing something like a 15th of a second. And again, like with Bill Basketball, I'm taking a risk. Again, as with Bill Basketball, I took something like 40 pictures and they all sucked, except this one. That's Shane Fredrickson. He is the #1 seniority engineer on the Reading and Northern, and that is his son, Ryan. We're coming into Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania. One of the finest steam locomotives ever built anywhere, anytime. The 611 visited the Strasburg, short line. They got about 4 miles of track. The naysayers guffawed, ha, 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 what an idiotic idea. Well, it was fantastic. And the naysayers can go shinny up a rubber stump. We had fun. We were able to do whatever we wanted. Didn't have to worry about anything else. We could make her go back and forth as much as we wanted. It's ridiculous to think about how those seemingly tiny drivers could do 100 miles an hour, but they did. Here we are in Vickers, Virginia. This coaling tower, obviously long out of service. Still, the number 611 in her original service went under this very tower on her, journeys from, Bristol to Roanoke, carrying the Pelican. Who wouldn't want to take the Pelican these days? Back in Strasburg, Peter Laro was setting up for one of his famous night shoots, and I was able to squeeze in a little bit before they actually started. I don't want to horn in on those things because unless I paid, and this was a little pricey. It was meant to be a fundraiser for the locomotive. That's all fine and that's all good. I just couldn't afford it at that time. I managed to sneak this one. And again, it's people. People make this thing run. Because, without people, it's just a big piece of iron. Way down here, this little thing here, this is a CSX car carrier. It's heading from Albany, behind me, and it's heading on down south to New Jersey. Over here, this is Breakneck Ridge. There's a little restaurant here. Ed Nowak set up his camera here a zillion times to catch the 20th century. It's a fabulous, fabulous location. I'm standing over here. This is all Storm King Mountain. And just over the side of this hill is West Point. I shot this for you photographically interested fellows with my iPhone 6 in a panoramic mode. I put it on a tripod, press panorama, and hand it over. On a day with Steve Berry, erstwhile editor of Railfan and Railroad, he wanted a tour of some of my favorite places of the New York City subway system. You might as well know at this point, I've lived here in this apartment since 1982. And another apartment before that since 1978. And like any rail fan, I tend to think big steam, big railroads. Yeah, that's where the action is. That's where the good stuff is. Yeah. I'd love to be with Joe a million years ago and capturing war bonnets or, going over Raton. Yeah, that would have been something. So I went to Tehachapi, Horseshoe Curve, because I wouldn't be caught dead taking pictures of a New York City subway train. But they're boring. There are millions of them. They're you know, no locomotive. Well, I happened to take a picture at Smith and Ninth once, and that turned out pretty good. And that's led to a whole thing where I discovered that there is a lot in the 700 miles of subway track here in New York City. You could almost get from here to Chicago. Not that you'd want to ride a subway train from here to almost Chicago. 492 stations, something like 5,000 cars, and they carry over 5 million people a day. It's a lot. Not as much as Tokyo or some of those other places, but still, that's over half the population of New York City every workday. Of course, that's pre-COVID and all that stuff. So there's really a lot of interesting stuff here. And here, this station is Queensboro Plaza in Borough of Queens. And up until a few years ago, it was kind of a backwater, kind of grungy, ugly stuff. And for whatever reason, it became exploded. As you can see, all these big glass boxes, it exploded. Just amazing transformation of the neighborhood. It's created vistas that did not exist before. And so I have a lot of fun over there. I say the number 7 is my lucky 7. Here we are again at Queensboro Plaza. We're on the R train heading to Astoria. Meanwhile, on the right are 2 7 trains. The top one is outbound, the lower one's inbound. I love how my fellow New Yorkers, they're sitting there, they're looking at their phone. You know, they're totally preoccupied, and they're absolutely oblivious to the mechanical mayhem right outside the window. Queensboro Plaza. You know, how do you take pictures of people? I got to admit, just like the lady I first showed you, I find it fascinating. I find people fascinating. And I do my best to take respectful pictures of them. Because as it was codified by O. Winston Link in his initial letter to the Norfolk and Western, is requesting him to do his project, he stated that he would include an employee in every single photograph. Because as a photographer, and all you experienced guys know, human beings are fascinated by other human beings. You incorporate a human into your photograph, and immediately that photograph, it could be of, some rusty old locomotive, but immediately you put the person in there and it becomes universal. It becomes appealing and interesting to everyone. And that it creates an interest. And that kind of interest helps convey what you're trying to convey. Here I'm trying to convey the intimacy of railroading, how it's integrated into the very fabric of New York City, and how 8 million of us live here, and how many of us have to use this form of transportation to get around, to go to work, to go to play, to go visit. Here was a little section on New York City stations. I'll let you just take a look at this while I grab some H2O. This is the Oculus, or more properly known by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey as the World Trade Center Transportation Hub. In the aftermath of 9/11, an occurrence that was devastating to the world, to our nation, and to this city, there was a lot of heartbreak and a lot of pain. And I was here on the island that day. Fortunately, I didn't happen to know anybody who perished. Though I do know some friends who had relatives or friends that did. Anyway, part of my my movie business stuff, I was called upon to do a couple of days on the beginning of a documentary regarding the building of this very structure. And I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have photographed interviews with Daniel Libeskind, a world-renowned architect who made the original design for the Freedom Tower, which was eventually superseded by the present #1 World Trade. He was fascinating to meet, but even more so, I was able to walk to work because I live on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, on First Avenue, and the architect of this building, Santiago Calatrava, Spanish born, who did a well-known library in Milwaukee, of all places, had designed the Oculus. He is known for his ectoskeletal buildings. That's his thing. And as you can see there, it's stunning. Previous to this, the Port Authority's train, the PATH train, a little but important subway line that runs between New York and New Jersey. All of New York City subway trains, mind you, only run within the city limits. This actually goes between the two states, terminated here. Well, the original station was a fairly large structure, but that was torn down for the World Trade Center. And, the classic basement, rabbit warren came about. This, down at the far end of this, that's where the actual station is. This is this space. Notice the tall thing overhead. Calatrava told me that was to align with the movement of the sun on September 11th. It also opens up. Unfortunately, there have been problems with leakage. Because this was a public works project, unfortunately, the schedule and the money went way over. Originally budgeted for $2 billion. It ballooned to $4 billion. Yes, $4 billion for a subway station. I don't care. It's such a magnificent space. It gives us hope, gives me hope. People love to go there. They feel empowered. They feel wonderful. And those, I think, 50,000 PATH train riders, they undoubtedly feel a lot better too. Now, moving across town to our beloved Jewel Box, the Grand Central Terminal. This opened in February 2nd. I always get that wrong, but February 1913. A magnificent collaboration of forced marriage between William Wilgus, the New York Central engineer, who came up with the concept of the double-decker station, and how to build this station while the existing one was still in use. They never canceled one train. They kept the same schedule, in spite of the fact that it took them 10 years to build this thing. Also, William Reed and Stem, who had family connections, did most of the basic engineering, but Warren and Westmore, with Whitney Warren, the lead architect, who studied at Beaux-Arts School, add all this Greco-Roman filigree and the arches and that magnificent André Couton statuary on top with Mercury and with Hercules looking on and Miniver standing by. Down at the bottom, there's a statue of the erstwhile man who did it all, Cornelius Commodore Vanderbilt, overlooking his domain. It's a fabulous space, 125 feet to the ceiling. Light like this is fantastic. This was after the restoration. Some of you may know during that far balcony had been where the Kodak Colorama had been. I had mixed feelings about that. I loved the corny pictures they had. It was always, when I got off the train coming out of the left there, I said, gee, what's the Colorama going to look like today? So I kind of missed it when they tore it down, but I love the white. During World War II, that was a station, a USO club. Interestingly enough, that stairway, the far stairway, was in the original plans, but wasn't built originally. This was put in during the restoration that occurred in the mid-1990s, where they cleaned out all the dirt and just fixed the roof, all the stuff. Did a fantastic job. Absolutely amazing work. And of course, people love to go there. I mean, 3/4 of a million people wander through this building every day. Mostly tourists. It's one of the biggest tourist attractions in the world. Who could resist? Yes, one snowy day. That thing with the triangles on the upper right, that's the Chrysler Building. Obviously, it's the Grand Central. This is the entrance on Vanderbilt. That eagle was part of the original Grand Central depot that was there. One of 10 cast iron eagles. It was repatriated to the spot. Purists said, oh, it was never originally here, but oh, what the heck. Looks good. Okay, I didn't take this picture, in spite of what Joe might say. No, I wasn't around with the dinosaurs. I'm not older than him. No. This is 1910. And the station hasn't opened yet. You can see the workmen here. And you see these boards and little work shacks, tool shacks. Then over here, you can see still some scaffolding here and here. Later on, they found that this floor space wasn't adequate enough, so they extended this floor to about here with lots of glass block, so you can still get light down to the tracks, but still magnificent. You arrive in this place, you feel like a god. You feel I'm in an important city. Hey, I'm important too. What a great place. I only have vague memories of the place, and it was just about the time they were starting to tear it down. Anyway, the next picture that comes, I took in roughly the same spot. Roughly the same thing, same place. And just, I want you to, okay, you looking at it? You got this? It's okay, hold on. And this is what it looks like today. For over 55 years, we've dealt with this crap. The basement of Madison Square Garden, just this armpit. One of the world's greatest cities, and this is its greatest city. Poor schmucks. Anyway, Senator Patrick Moynihan remembered from New York State, remembered what the station originally looked like. And he had this idea, or he got this idea, was told this idea, whatever. Right across the street was a McKim Mead and White designed post office. Again, the Beaux-Arts style, classical, colonnaded things. Some excellent structure. Of course, Charles McKim of McKim Mead and White designed the original Penn Station. So they were, they were family. Within that building, there was a large courtyard. And so by adapting it to use, we were able to, our now controversial governor, Andrew Cuomo, was able to push through the building of the new Moynihan train hall. Now we're talking. This is right across the street. This is about, I don't know, about 800 feet to the west of the previous picture. And it's primarily an Amtrak hall. And so when you're arriving now on Amtrak from wherever, you now come into a place that's at least equal to the city. And notice that there's virtually no kiosks and crap your eye. Over here, just so you know, if you have fancy Amtrak tickets, this is where you get to sit in the Amtrak lounge. This way goes out to the street. Here is a very nice waiting room. Up here and back on the other side will be the requisite food hall, high-end clientele. So it'll be nice. It'll be nice. I'm glad. You know, this is ever so much better than the thing across the street. And well, I like it. Now, Alexander Cassatt of the Pennsylvania Railroad was the leading proponent of the Pennsylvania Railroad's expansion into New York City. He hated the fact of having to take a ferry from Jersey City while the arch rival New York Central got to parade magnificently right into the center of Manhattan. Well, it was an incredible project. It wasn't just Penn Station. It was the Hudson River tunnels, the Pennsylvania Station, the East River tunnels, then this Sunnyside Yard, considered at the time the largest passenger train yard in the world. Hey, it's America. Everything's bigger than anything else. And then the final crown jewel being Gustav Lindenthal's Hell Gate Bridge. That's two words, Hell Gate Bridge. This allowed trains from, say Boston to continue straight on to, say, Washington. And this was the train layup yard. This building over here, I believe, is the Pennsylvania Railroad's commissary. Not 100% sure. Over here we see Long Island Railroad double decker. Here's a regular Amtracker. I'm not sure from where. And this will be this long one here. Will be going upstate in New York State Empire Service. Of course, the star attraction here is here. This is Hickory Creek, built in 1948 by the Pullman Company. It is the genuine article. It's not a redo. It's not a masquerade. This is the real deal. This car was on the 20th Century Limited. As you can see, there's your little tail sign. This had an interesting history in that it wound up being a part of the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey circus trains. I don't know, the red or the blue train, I don't remember. A group in New Jersey, utilizing the facilities of the United Railway Historical Society facilities, restored this, and she gets to go. Usually on this run, but she's been elsewhere. I've been in her several times. She's wonderful. Other details. This is the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. And here is my favorite little guy, the number 7 train, over it all. My friend Steve Barry saw this and he went, dang. My other friend, Orrin Hellbach, who used to live here in Marble Hill in the Bronx, said, I don't think Marble Hill has ever looked that pretty. This is the Hudson Line on its way into, it's got about another 2.5 miles, and it'll pop over into Manhattan and so forth. This is what we call the Harlem River, a misnomer if there ever was one. It's basically an estuary. And beyond this bridge, the Hudson River Bridge, is the Hudson River. Interestingly enough, here was a peninsula, and there was a huge iron and steel factory that manufactured munitions through World War I. Because they wanted to make this nice and straight for boats, they took out the steel mill and they blasted this and made a bigger channel. Through the aegis of friend Michael Sullivan, erstwhile yard master of the New Jersey Transit Hoboken yards, I got a chance to go up into the tower and grab this thing one beautiful morning. I'm in Hoboken, in the tower, and here's, your basic New Jersey Transit stuff. And there's World Trade, number 1 World Trade. This is a ventilation tower for the Harlem, not for the Holland Tunnel. And sun's just starting to peak up. Interestingly enough here, all of these pilings here are the remains of the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western's maritime wharfs. Long gone. Over here, whoops. Ellie, where's your phone? Sorry, guys. I live in an apartment with other people. This is in Long Island City in Queens. That's the Long Island Railroad layup yard. And this building, of course, there's no grill on it, but that's the Empire State Building. Heading out to Queens, here we see the Acela flying overhead on its way over the Hellgate Bridge and going on into Penn Station. This is the subway trains below. It was a sweet light kind of day. One of my most recent pictures, this was taken last February in Metuchen, New Jersey. And I just couldn't wait to get Amtrak in snow.
Dennis is giving a lecture right now.
So there's a fun story behind this. I hope you don't mind my telling it. That's the number 6 train up above, and obviously that's the Acela below. We're in the Bronx, and that bedraggled building was designed by none other than Cass Gilbert, the architect for the Woolworth building. It was built, I think, 1911 for part of the New York Connecting Railroad and the New Haven Railroad service. They had like 4 passenger stations in the Bronx. But the New Haven gave up that service in like 1930. Just couldn't compete with the subway. And the other tenant of the building was the New York, Westchester, and Boston. And they left in 1937. This building's been vacant ever since. Why it hasn't been torn down, I have no idea. There's a group doing a reclamation of the Bronx River, and there's a park just to the right, and they have hopes of turning this into a visitor center. Now, the little story about this is there's a 10-foot high chain link fence. I use what I call a camera pole, which is basically a painter's pole. Using the Wi-Fi on my Canon 6D, I'm able to view on my phone what I'm looking at and able to fire a picture. I was using an on-camera flash. I normally don't like using on-camera flashes, but what the hell am I going to do? So I did this, and it was a crazy evening. I missed this, I missed that. This one came upon me just like that. I just fired indiscriminately. I figured, I blew it again. And I brought the camera down, and I'm holding it, and I'm holding my hands, and I take a look, and I go, I couldn't believe I actually got the Acela in a perfect shot. I just dumb freaking luck. And a passerby, he said, "I take it you got the shot, huh?" Yeah, I love New Yorkers. Silver Cup used to be a bakery. Now it's a movie studio. I myself have worked on it. One of the shows I worked on there was a few days on some show called The Sopranos. Number 7 train on our way up. Here we are, number 7 train in Long Island City. I was telling you about these steel buildings and the opportunities they're giving me. How the whole neighborhood's really clean. and shiny. Williamsburg, Brooklyn. How can you tell? That's the Williamsburg Bridge in the background. Right here, for you rail buffs, about 20 years ago, there was a terrible accident, a misread signal, and I think there was some loss of life. And so the trains run really slow here. Here we are about 2,000 feet beyond that. Again, there's the Williamsburg Bridge in the background. That beautiful dome is the former Williamsburg Savings Bank, now an event venue. And the car there is the famous R32. They've just been retired. They were the first fully remotely successful air-conditioned cars in New York City. And I used to ride them. They were the oldest cars in the system, 50 years old. It was a privilege. This is what I kind of like to do. This kind of photography, this color, this stuff, you know, I got to admit, I get a little frustrated with sun. It's only one light. It's only one point. And I come to realize that, you know, all those decades of being on movie sets where we'd use dozens of lights to pretend to make the illusion of reality, the illusion that there's only one source of light, but we'd use a dozen lights, that I've gotten used to really enjoying artificial light sources. Look at all the dozens of artificial light sources, and it's like different colors, different intensities, these points of light. They're all things, again, you know, making my eyes dance. I'd say, oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good. Gotta admit, I just like multiple light sources and color. Here we are at that train on the top. I could go 2 blocks and catch and ride right out here. The far end of the line, it's at Coney Island. Cyclone is like 110 years old, all wood. And I haven't been on it in years, mostly because I don't think I'd survive. It's a great ride. And again, here we are, Cyclone on the left, Coney Island. Funny little story. I had thought about this shot, and I arrived one night, and I was on the opposite platform, not this platform, the other side. And I'm there, and the train pulls in, and I'm right at the motorman's. Well, motorman gets up, bangs down the door. He says, "Hi, my name's Harold. So you like taking pictures of trains?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I love to do this stuff." "Oh, that's great. Anyways, I like to do it too." "Excellent. I had a question." I said, "Harold, why is Coney Island so dark? There's no lights on." And he said, "Oh, that's because it's not Friday, it's Saturday. That's when they're open. You got to come back then." I said, "Okay, well, thank you." So he raised the door, off he went. Well, on Friday, I took I got on the train, got out here, went to this platform, started to see this great thing going on, and I took this picture. Well, wouldn't you know it, train on the opposite platform comes in, stops, the window goes banging down, and it says, "Hey, Dennis! It's me, Harold. How's it going?" I love New York. Queensboro Plaza. You might have seen this in Trains Magazine. I love how the fact that these poor guys up there, they're working. I don't know, what is that, 15 stories up? Here we are, 180th Street in the Bronx. And, you know, talk about action. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trains all in one shot. And as you can see, it really interweaves. The subway really interweaves with the very fabric of New York City. And you know, it's just this kind of intimacy. It's pretty amazing. My friend Howard Pincus was shocked when I said I used my new Sigma 400 millimeter lens in the subway. He said, "What, are you nuts? 400 millimeter telephoto in the subway? What the heck are you gonna do in that?" And so I sent him this, and he says, "Yeah, you would do that kind of stuff." This is the Q train, my train. It's coming northbound, coming into 36th Street, 86th Street. I don't even know where I live anymore. Tend to think that Manhattan's all flat. Well, it isn't. As you can see, there's a bit of a grade coming up from the subway station at 72nd Street. New York City Mayor Harlan, forget his first name, was the one of the main proponents of getting a New York City subway actually built. And the first line went from City Hall on up Park Avenue, hung a left on 42nd Street, went to Broadway, and went up to 145th Street. Now, this is 1904, and people at the time were not at all used to going underground for anything except that final resting place. So Harlan, while he accepted the fact that most of the stations were nicely done, but they're basically rectangular boxes with some lovely terracotta detailing by the wonderful design company called Hines and Lafarge. Beautiful terracotta, lovely detailing. He said he wanted to go all stops out. He wanted to make the most magnificent subway station ever. And so they did. Here on a loop, they built a almost like a 2/3 of a circle station with this magnificent green and white tiles, with the Guastafino interlocking structural bearing tiles. As you can see, lighting, stanchions, skylights, fabulous. Fortunately, by 1945, ridership was down to like 500 a day. They needed to change the cars to cars like this, where there was a center door. And as you can see, this is just a little bit of a gap. So they stopped it. Now, to see this today, you have to become a member. It's harder than getting a Taylor Swift concert ticket. You have to become a member of the New York City Transit Museum for $50, and then you have to buy a lottery. You have to wait for a certain day, have your itchy finger ready on the computer at 10 a.m. and buy your ticket immediately, because they'll sell out in a matter of hours. And then you don't get to go for another 6 weeks. And then the tour is like an hour upstairs, and they're yakking about the history. And then you go to another adjoining subway station. You get on one of the locals. You make one hop. They make a special stop, pull out a special platform so you can get out, and that train proceeds. It's normal service. It's a normal service train with an extra stop. But the thing is that you have a grand total of about 30 minutes, and not much time, and a lot of people. I had to go 3 times to get the pictures that I wanted. Would I do it again? Absolutely. In September of 2013, it was a magnificent night of color and light. And I had been on the opposite platform a few nights previously and seen some people standing where I'm standing now. I said, maybe there's a view over there. Oh my goodness. Well, I did this. I brought my flash because I thought I'd have to do something with the front of the train. I tried that a couple of times. It looked like crap. And the sun's going down. And I had only a Canon 40D, where the topmost ISO you dare use is 800. So 800, my lens was f2.8, and I'm looking at the meter, and even a couple of stops underexposed, what the meter says where I like to expose such shots. and still it's like a hundredth of a second. But I knew that displacement, image displacement, with something coming straight at you is less problematic than a broadside. So I took a risk, did the shot, got it home, looked at it, did minimal plot processing, and this is what I got. I put it on railpictures.net and it became basically my most popular photo, and I had an unbelievable response. And in some ways, this started things happening for me. Yep. Well, I can't think of a much better way to end this show than a celebration, thanking you guys. This is from Smith and Ninth in Brooklyn, highest station on the system. Down here on the bottom, that's the G train coming on up to the station where I'm at. This is 4th of July. A little bit of celebration. These fireworks are in the East River. And this black thing is this neighborhood's Cobble Hill, a very desirable something hill. I know I've got it wrong. Don't have the notes with me. This back here is Manhattan. Just to show you, yes, I have been to Colorado. You know, we're all familiar with that place. And, you know, I was the head of Geeks Anonymous at the time. Anyway, in 2016, I published a book on my escapades at Steamtown. There it is, Smoke Over Steamtown. It's available at your favorite bookseller. Yeah, sure, you can try it at Barnes & Noble or Amazon. I hear used copies are going for considerably less. I think you'll enjoy this. Not only has color and black and white photographs, it has some interesting, what I call profiles of the people who work there. And extra special bonus, if you buy one, you can send it to me and I'll autograph it for free. Thank you, David Schaff and all the gang out there for having me this evening. I hope you didn't mind some of my more esoteric thoughts and photographs. Hope you were entertained for the evening. I hope you had at least half as much fun as I did. Again, thank you so much for letting me come by. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Fantastic show and wonderful photography. Very much appreciated it. Do you have time for some questions?
Well, you know, I will turn into a pumpkin any second now.
I mean, no. I know it is getting late for you. It's pushing 11 o'clock.
No, I can handle it. Honest. I'd love to, if anybody has any. I'm glad to answer.
All right. Folks, I've taken the mute block off. So if you unmute yourself, ask your question, then go back on mute. Dennis, I'm sure would be happy to answer.
Hi, this is Andrew. I'm in the Princeton area, so I'm not very far, and I'm quite familiar with New York. Love those pictures. I don't get up there often enough to wander around and take pictures like that. But my question goes back to film days. How much effort have you put in? Because I started I'm a little younger, but I started about the same time as you did, and I have lots and lots of slides that I would scan. Have you done that to your collection, or you're picking and choosing?
Last year, because of COVID and having a lot of time here at home, I started doing exactly that. I've had for years a Nikon, what is it? Cool Scan 4. And I started doing this, and our old friend and neighbor said, "Hey, Dennis, I've got a Nikon Cool Scan in my office. I haven't used it in years. You want it?" So it was great because I would shove them through my two computers, and I got about 10,000 images done before I had to stop. for a variety of reasons. I've been itching to go back. I figure I've done about 1/3. So yeah, I'm using let's see, what is it? ViewScan as the software rather than the original Nikon software, which I found just completely horrible. And running it into my PC, also into a Mac laptop. I've got the two. I had obviously Kodachrome and Fujichrome, but I also had this odd film, which was actually motion picture film. It was designed for a color negative for shooting movies, and 35 millimeter, but it was color film. And the reason why I used it was because I could get the film for free. It was when you're shooting a typical 35 millimeter film load of 1,000 feet, you don't always use every last bit of it. We would have short ends that would not only be 10 feet, they'd be 30 feet, 100 feet, 250 feet. And so that's plenty of film to last me for years. And there was a lab in Los Angeles that would take care of using this particular film. It's not regular, and it had to be specially handled. But they had the advantage of being color negative. I could get a print on movie film, so it had a print, therefore a slide, but I could also get prints out of it. I could use it in daylight, I could use it in tungsten. It was a good film. I have about 200 rolls of that, and I'm processing it as negatives because the prints, unfortunately, some of them faded badly. But yeah, when I announced doing these slides, some of my friends said, "Well, you're just doing the good stuff, right?" Well, no, I got to be different. I'm scanning every damn thing. Sure, after I've scanned it, or if it's a bad slide, obviously that goes in the trash. But even the ones, there's some that are like, I can barely see what it is and so forth, but I scanned it anyway. And then in Lightroom, you can digitally enhance it. Oh yeah, that. I have found so many shots that are now new favorites that I had forgotten about completely, that I would have lost forever if I had just not bothered. So it's just basically the rule for me is to scan everything. And I hope to start up on that again soon.
Yeah, it was a great show. I really loved it. The other question quickly is, what's the highest ISO that you use? You have a full frame digital, right? You said you have a full frame. So what ISO do you go up to?
It was, I had for years, Canon 20D and a couple of Canon 40Ds, which were APS-C. And all of those, 800 ISO was the limit. I was itching to go full frame because of its abilities. And it was, a quantum leap, because instead of 800, I could now easily go to 24, 32, even 6400. I try to shy away. I try to keep it as low as possible, just as always. But if I have to, I shoot 6400, and I'm glad.
If I may interject a minute, back in the 80s, I used to shoot a film was 5247, I believe it was, and that was advertised as a spooled movie film, and they would process it, and you'd get slides and negatives out of it.
That's the same film, sir.
Okay.
I think, that's the stuff that Seattle Filmworks, I think.
Seattle Filmworks was the biggest one. There was another place called Dale, I think, down in Florida. And the place I used was RGB. The thing is that I used to work in the lab industry in Hollywood, and there was a laboratory called CFI, or Consolidated Film Laboratories, and a bunch of their employees saw this as an entrepreneurial opportunity, and they set up this dry lab called RGB. You would send them your exposed film. They would go into a dark room and assemble it into a large 1,000-foot reel of negative. It's staple it together, glue it or whatever. Send that reel to CFI, which would then develop it like regular movie film. Then they put it on one of their printers, which in movie terms is quite different than still photo printing. Is essentially they'd run the negative through loops like a projector, and then they would use unexposed print film and mate it, bring the two together and then expose light through it to expose it. And that's how they make movie film. So you then get this print, as we call it in the movies. And that print is what they put in projectors that you would see in a theater. So that print would then go back to the dry lab of RGB or Seattle Filmworks or Dale, and then they would cut it up and put them into plastic slide mounts. So that's how you got slides out of your negative.
I did find that it was just like a brownish cast to it, or I was not impressed over a long period of time with it. From just my own personal observations
I think if you
experience.
Go back to the negative and then process it in Lightroom or GIMP or whatever processing program, you'll be much more satisfied. There's you've heard of the cheap Hollywood producers. Well, I can tell you they're real since I've worked for them. But anyway, Kodak, their color negative film, like 5247 or 5219 or 5054, was the best. That was incredible film for movies. There was nothing better. But when it came to the print film stock, Kodak offered two versions. A cheap stock, they offered two versions. One, a premium stock that you'd print it, and those colors would be color fast for years. Keep it properly and stored. It'll stay, for years. For the cheaper guys who did the drive-ins, who wanted to make a quick buck, who didn't have the money, they made a cheaper print stock, and that within a year goes bad, heavy magenta. To be critical about the film, the Kodak movie film for still film, it's not ideal. It's very grainy, and you have to understand it was movie film, and it was meant to be shown on a theater and penetrating your eyeballs at 24 frames a second. So the grain tended to blend. It's not like with the fine grain structure of Ektachrome or Kodachrome or Provia, where the grain is very, very tight. That's where you're going to see issues. But the GG1 pictures I showed you, those are all Eastman color negative film.
Okay,
So
right.
As you can see, those look fine.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I liked your show a lot. And by the way, the image at Strasbourg with the crew, with the engineman or somebody getting up on the cab, and the guy in the middle, I'm pretty sure it was Mitch Goldman, if you need a name. He had a baseball cap on.
Right. No, I don't think it was. Mitch was there that night. Mitch and I are old buddies. We had many adventures together. And no, I wouldn't say that was Mitch.
It looked like just on a short notice, it looked like him from the rear.
Absolutely. I learned at the master's knee, that pan shot of the 611. I admired Mitch's work about these I remember being where was that? It was in Virginia. We were chasing the Norfolk Southern Virginian Heritage Unit. It was with Sam Phillips, and it was had a funny name like Sunrise or Happiness, Virginia. I can't quite remember. Anyway, we're all standing around. Most of us are just standing around waiting for the unit to show up, and there's Mitch over there, and one of the kids, they were kids, half my age, he said, "My God, he really does do those things without a tripod. He is a human tripod." and let me tell you, he was just phenomenal in his ability to
Yep.
do this.
Yep.
I cannot do anything like what he does. He's amazing.
I've tried to take lessons from him, and it's not worked real well.
Well, I cheat. Sometimes I use a tripod sometimes, but he's phenomenal with that. Yeah, absolutely.
I was wondering how I wasn't really clear on what your regular job was. It wasn't really, and I missed part of the meeting. So I was wondering about that. And so did you, within your regular job, did you also do the photography along with it?
I basically had two jobs. One was as a motion picture production person, like your erstwhile Vice President Dave here.
Okay.
And that's what I did for about 32 years. Currently, I work as a sales agent at an electronics store.
Oh, okay. So
that keeps my, you know, I can tell you all you want to know about the new gear, and it's good. It's phenomenal, this new stuff and what it can do. It's just light years ahead of what we had to do and deal with Kodachrome.
I see. Yeah, I'll bet. Oh, okay. So did you take always, were you doing your photography kind of along with your regular job too, or is it always just kind of a hobby on the side?
Well, I've never made my living with still photography. In the motion picture world, I was a camera assistant, and on some occasions I was a camera operator, and I made my living with that. It was an incredible experience. I got to work with some amazing people, and particularly my main employer and friend, Ken Kelsch, ASC. I was learning at his knee of, you know, how to light and what lighting was about. His abilities of controlling light and shadow, and using backlight, using light to tell a story. You know, it imbues me to today. I mean, at P&H, when I'm trying to help people with their live streaming, you know, after I tell them what a good camera would be for it, I say, don't forget, you know, background. You know, I see a lot of you guys using the faux backgrounds, which is great. But also there's the issue about lighting. As you can see, I lit myself for this thing because so many people, and it surprises me, many camera people, television people who don't bother to make it themselves look good here on live, in live view. I don't know. I just want to look as good as I can, and so I'm just applying what I learned over those years. And
I see.
It's just, it really affected all that cinema, all of that drama, all of that emotion, affected my work as a still photographer. It just imbued me with that kind of spirit. But no, I never made a living at it, but I've been.
They kind of merged then.
I'm basically a serious amateur, an amateur in the sense that I know what I'm doing. I just don't make my living from it. So
I see.
But I've certainly gotten plenty of books and published and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
I'll be sure and check them out. Now I know.
Yes, Smoke Over Steamtown, available today.
Yeah.
Dennis?
Did you ever? Oh,
Yes.
go ahead.
Dennis?
Yes.
Yeah, Joe McMillan here. I don't have a question. Just want to tell you I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation tonight, and I hope our paths cross again before too long.
Absolutely, Joe. I just want to meet up with you and Steve and that new fella, Eric Lundgren, who's in your neighborhood.
He lives about 6 blocks from me.
Exactly. You know, it's just like as George Hamlin would say, it's ready for some sort of nuclear event. All of this talent in one spot.
I can't believe that guy is so talented. And,
he's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He is. I have yet to really go out with him, but I see him all the time out on the road, and I talk to him occasionally, and about the day. Do you know he does all of his color correcting on an iPad? He doesn't have even a desktop or a laptop. He does it on an iPad, and some of his pictures have 18 layers in color correction. You know, he's incredible at color perception and what he does with his work, but he does it on an iPad.
and also, he's this triple threat. He not only does railroad photography, he paints, superbly, just
and
superb
the model.
painter.
Yeah,
and then he does these miniatures
the models
that would fool anybody in thinking that's really a Santa Fe locomotive charging over that bridge.
Right. It's incredible.
Amazing talent.
Really a talented person. And we have, or did before COVID, we had what I call the Arvada Roundtable, where we have railroaders and photographers and authors and all. We meet once a month. And he started coming, and he's presented a couple of programs that's been very well liked.
It's the Alvarado epicenter of creativity, obviously.
Yes, he is. He is.
So I got to come out there and have a taste of it sometime.
Well, come on out sometime. I'll buy you a hamburger. I'll buy you a hamburger. Yeah.
It's Steak and Shake.
Yeah, Steak and Shake. Yeah, we got one left. Yeah.
Is that all?
Yeah. Hello, Dave.
Hey,
Hello,
Dave.
Joe. Glad I could get here. Sorry I'm late.
That's all right. We didn't miss you at all.
Well, yeah, just promote your club. That's okay. We're here for you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, good to seeing you, Dennis. And again, I hope our paths cross before too long.
I certainly hope so.
I do too.
Certainly hope so. Let's see, Dave, by any chance, I knew I'd forget to ask you fellas, did anybody record this?
I think Nathan, he's much more talented than the rest of us on this technical directing, but I think he's the one that puts it onto YouTube. So that's where I think people can see it within mere hours after we wrap this up.
Fabulous.
Actually, within seconds, Dave. It's already out there.
See, look at
outstanding. Because
we call him Lightning Hopkins or something like that,
I'm much better at the technical side than I am at the impromptu speaking when, at 4 minutes to showtime, I've got no presenter, no president, no vice president. I'm really sweating it here.
Yeah, Dennis, you can stay up to 12:30 and watch it if you want.
I could. I probably will,
Yeah, right.
I'm my favorite presenter,
Yeah.
I'm glad it's recorded because all of my fans, they're demanding. They're very demanding.
All five of them. There you go.
Yeah, all five of them. One's my dog.
We got a new fan here.
Yes, sir.
Pat's one of your new fans. Right on, Pat. Well, sorry I missed the beginning there, Dennis. As you know, the joys of the film production industry is your time is never your own. So of course, I'm working on something for Court TV, and it went long, and I'm in a town, and I'm not in my own home, so I'm doing this on a phone, and I guess this works. I don't know. Seems like you guys
look good there, Dave. You look good.
Your pictures look really good on the small screen, but I'm going to watch this again because I'm sure they look even better on the big screen.
I would say they would look better on the bigger screen. Yes.
We probably have our friend John Scott watching from Australia, and he could tell us if it looked good in Australia.
I don't know. It's upside down there, isn't it?
No. We don't take those pot shots at him because he's a genuine club member. So, but
that's okay.
John, are you out there with us?
Pot shots are fun. I mean, I live in New York. I get plenty of those.
Well, that's true.
I live in Melbourne. Melbourne, and your show was magnificent. My wife and I have been to New York, We don't know it as well as you do, but we love it too. And I've been to East Broadtop and I've been to Maine, all of it related, and it was terrifically done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Australia is certainly on one of my to-do lists as well. I would so much love to go down there. It's just utterly amazing.
It's a good place to live.
As I say, everybody I meet or talk to from down there are fascinating, wonderful people, and I'd love to come down there sometime. You could give me a tour.
Yes, keep in touch.
Yes, and we'll be glad to have you come out west, even to take pictures yourself, either John or Dennis.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
You can come to Railroad Day in Como on August 21st.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing story, isn't it? Just who thought that would ever happen?
Thanks.
I can give us all some updates on things that the club has coming up, but I wanted to give everybody a chance to, if they had any more questions for Dennis.
Just some great photography. I loved it. Some views that I never would have seen. So thank you.
It was great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great stuff.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. That's the fun with the photography. You guys experience when you go out there, you're all shooting together as a group. You got 4 guys, 4 gals. You're all shooting the same thing, but you get 4 different viewpoints. That's the fun, because everybody's individual, and they come away with a different value or different thought, and you learn from each other. We all like to steal from each other. Tom Nanos is a friend of mine in Connecticut. I'm always stealing stuff from him, but he steals from me too. So it's all fun, and it makes yourself better. Seeing other people's work. A plug for the CRPA, Center of Railroad Photography and Art. Last Saturday was the annual conversations, and that is also available on YouTube. And if you've never seen one, I can't imagine you guys never seen one. But if you haven't seen this last one, by all means, as always, there's something for everyone, and amazing work to be seen. It's not to be missed if you are into railroad imaging. Now, let's face it, all of us, all rail fans, we come for the trains. That's it. I'm convinced every single one of us had an experience when we were a child, holding on to a bigger adult's hand, and this incredible scary thing goes boom. I go ah, and you're terrified as a little child, and like a little child, you're terrified, but you immediately say to mom and dad, "Can we do that again?" Because that experience, I'm convinced, all of us rail fans, all that we're doing, all the pictures we take, all the books we read, all the analysis, all the painting we do, the scraping, it's all we're doing is reliving that excitement that first run by. And we do go off in these divergent things. My thing happened to be an equal amount of photography and the train, and that's it for mostly for me. And where others want to be preservationists or run the trains or do these amazing histories. But again, we're all here for the trains. Inside, we're just that little kid who really enjoyed that thing going right by.
Anybody have any other questions for Dennis?
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
You can stick around for my update, or you can, you can sneak off. You're entitled,
I can do that. Oh, but
Sure. Sure.
Well,
I didn't know how much we had of announcements at the beginning of the meeting, so maybe Nathan can tell me what I need to talk about.
We had zip announcements.
Zip announcements. Did you get
Nathan? Aren't we going to wait for some announcements? Nope. Go right ahead. It's all yours, Dennis.
So Dennis, did you get to meet our Dennis, our president of our club?
Yes, I saw them. I
Okay.
think, gentlemen, why don't we unmute me? I'll gladly stick around and see the rest of and you guys can get on with your meeting. How's that?
Oh, it'll be brief. I'll keep it short.
Fair enough, Dave. Tell us what we've won.
Bob, tell them what they've lost. Okay. All self-respect, probably. All right. So now I'm not sure if Denny Leonard went over what we've got coming up. We've had a rare opportunity present itself for the club from the Colorado Railroad Museum out in Golden. They're going to let us have an event on May 16th. We did not get to have our banquet last year, which is kind of a usual get together and eat-a-thon. So coming up on May 16th will be a rare weekend where the Railroad Museum will actually have 3 narrow gauge steam locomotives all hot at the same time. And so we will have what we're going to call, for lack of a better term, our steam picnic. And this will probably be in the afternoon around 4 or 5 o'clock. We will be sending out an email notification to our members probably in the next few days. And then for the very few of our members that don't have a email address, we'll do an actual USPS mailer, because this is coming up faster than we can even get it out in our newsletter. And we will not be able to send out in the newsletter a sign-up sheet, because we'll need to have them back quicker than that. We actually found out that we need to have our amount of head count and food choices back by May the 2nd to give them 2 weeks notice. So we will send out details to our members pretty quick. Like I said, there will be 3 steam engines hot that weekend, and we will get a special train ride set aside just for our members that kind of coincides with the little the eating thing at the pavilion there at the museum. The 3 engines that are going to be hot would be the 346, Rio Grande 346, the Rio Grande Southern number 20, and the Rio Grande 491. The 491 will be getting service not long after mid-May, because they want to do a few things to get it ready for the Thomas event that come in the fall, and also the Polar Express that come in the fall. Engine 346 is, I believe, due for its 15-year rebuild. So once it goes cold after this event, it probably will not be steaming again for a few years, just because that takes time and cubic dollars, as we know. And so that will probably leave just the 20 available for steaming for a few months anyway. So anyway, watch for your email and or postal mail about that for the members if they want to come partake. It'll be, you'll get food, and you'll get this spectacular steam show and some photo opportunities, and it'll be about $40 a head, and we'll let you know what the food options are, that kind of thing. Also coming up in May, our May program on the second Tuesday will be presented by Bruce Barrett, who has a long history with the Santa Fe and the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, and he will talk to us about trackage rights and a lot of the ins and outs of all that. It's kind of a topic that most people have not enlightened us with, so we're glad to have that. And again, also thanks to Dennis Livesey for this program. So I'm sorry again that I missed it. Also, we think coming up in July, one of our board members, Steve Suber, is probably got us set up to do something with the Colorado Live Steamers group out in Byers, Colorado. We'll get more details out pretty soon on that. But that should be fun. That's you guys have to remind me, but I think it's 15-inch gauge and maybe 7.5-inch gauge out there, live steam in a smaller scale. Also, I talked about that for July, probably in June. We haven't quite firmed this up yet, but our June program is likely to be presented by Robert Holtzweiss of Texas, who is very involved with the George H.W. Bush Museum and the Union Pacific ST-70 Ace engine that was number 4141 that was painted in that one-of-a-kind paint scheme. And Robert is also the president of the Railway and Locomotive Historical Society. So he will have some interesting things to tell us if we can firm this up for June. It's looking pretty good. As Pat Morrow, who's another one of our board members, mentioned, we've got the annual Boreas Pass Railroad Days coming up in August. We're not really planning too much else in August because I know that there's big things going on down at the Cumbers and Toltec with some of their 100-year-old plus steam engines. There's a good chance that Rio Grande Southern number 20 may go down for a guest appearance. 315 we should be running, a couple of engines from Nevada. And what's the other one I'm forgetting there? 315 probably, right? 315 and
What's
Nathan,
from Nevada?
I think, was it the Glenbrook and the Eureka? I've
Right.
been told are
Correct.
probably both.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yep.
Cool.
So
Glenberg.
Glenbrook is a wood burning 260.
Oh, okay.
Basically, it's a contemporary of Eureka. So
Yeah.
the two of them will look very era appropriate together.
Oh, nice.
burning wood, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else have I got here on my list? Well, that's quite a bit of stuff for you guys to absorb. And I know we've kept you up late, and I'm sorry I got here a little bit tardy. All of this stuff will be in coming newsletters. And like I said, an update about our steam picnic will be coming out even sooner than that. Denny Leonard, have you got anything else you would like to impart to us? Maybe he's not still here. I don't know.
He needs to unmute.
I'll try that now. There we go. Thanks, Dennis. That was wonderful. We don't see a lot of the East Coast, and so it's always nice to get that angle on stuff. I would love to see some more stuff on the GG1s. I don't know. They always fascinated me some too, even though didn't see them really in live action. So Dave kind of went over everything. May 16th should be really exciting, and there will be more out on that. And I don't really have much else tonight. Glad everybody could be here. Anything else, Dave? Nathan, thanks for doing it again, being our executive producer.
Board meeting Monday night then?
Board
Yes.
meeting Monday night.
Okay.
Check your email. I'll send out the announcement here and probably tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, Dennis Livesey,
Thanks,
if you're still up with us, thanks for staying up late and regaling us with your stories and amazing photos.
Indeed. Thanks
Thank
much,
you all.
Yep.
All
Good
right.
night.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Good night. See you next month.
We will see you next month.
Bye-bye.